ABQ RAW just went 5-6. 10-4.
Not sure if it's been advised yet, but Albuquerque RAW is 5-6 at the scene.
10-4.
CS34 is 5-6, and Albuquerque RAW is 5-6 as well.
10-4.
Be advised for 49, ABQ RAW is about to go 5-6 on your guys' scene.
10-4.
My name's Commander Kyle Hartsock, K-Y-L-E-H-A-R-T-S-O-C-K. I'm the commander of the Criminal Investigation Division, which includes our homicide unit. Last night, about 10 minutes before midnight, officers were dispatched to the 1800 block of Indian School Northwest, which is just north of downtown here, to reports of shots fired and multiple people being shot and people fleeing the area. When officers got there, they did find what looks to be 4 people shot and killed on the apartment complex. As you can imagine, there was multiple witness accounts of what occurred or what they saw afterwards. Some individuals were seen running, including at least one individual, when he saw officers, ran from officers. Officers did chase after him. He ran into an apartment on site, and after some time did come out. Just to close it out real quick, he was not involved at all. He actually just happened not to be from the area, got really scared, saw other people running, and ran with them. He was released after being detained for a little bit. Preliminarily, what the investigation shows is all 4 people that are deceased knew each other, and that one of the 4 people murdered the other 3 and then took his own life. We can tell you now, we're still working on next of kin notifications to the families that are involved, so we're not going to release names. But of the deceased victims of the murder, one was a father and son. The son was an adult. A female acquaintance of the father and son, she was also an adult. Both her and the son are in their 20s. The dad is in his early 50s. And the person who murdered them, we also believe we have him identified. He's in his 20s as well. He took his own life. So those are the 4 people that are deceased. We're still trying to piece together exactly what happened. We do have statements from witnesses that everybody knew each other, that there had been some alcohol consumption going on all day, and some personal disputes started to flare up, essentially. The deceased younger male on scene, somebody called his parents to come and get him. They did come and get him, but as he was exiting, him and the shooter continued to argue. He got out of a car. The shooter pulled a gun out, murdered him, and then killed the other 2 people that were in that same car or coming out of that same car. So that's what we have right now. We can tell you early on, our shooter, from our early look, has no criminal history that we can find. So we're going to try to understand what happened, if he does have other history, the history of the gun, the history of everyone else involved. We are very saddened by this loss of life. That much life, too, in one incident is just unimaginable, including a father and son lost their life the same day. So our condolences to all the families involved of all 4 individuals. But with that, I'll try to answer any questions I can.
Once again, whose residence was that belonged to?
We're still trying to piece that together. We don't believe it was the shooters, but we're still trying to, we're literally doing interviews right now still.
This month, past month in August, there's been a lot of homicides, unfortunately. Do you want to talk about that, just from having to deal with now this huge loss of life, on top of what we've seen this past month, which has been very violent, unfortunately?
August was a very violent month in terms of homicides for our department and for our detectives. July was a very low month, and August just went completely the opposite way, unfortunately. While I wish we could predict better when homicides would happen, it's nearly impossible task. Instead, we always try to use the resources we have, which are education, if people are in dangerous situations that make them more vulnerable to violence. We have an entire building at the Family Advocacy Center that can provide attorneys and advocates or police officers to help people get out of those violent situations. We're always looking at the history of the guns that are used in these cases. Are they stolen firearms from auto burglaries? Are they straw purchased by people selling guns illegally? Like, what is their history? And then for the people that are vulnerable, a lot of them have been in other violent incidents that just never got their trauma somewhat dealt with, and so they can be really quick to also act out violent when another situation comes up. And so we're always trying to tackle those three tunnels of issues when these things happen. But what we can tell you is our victim advocates reach out to every family of homicide, of injury shootings, of armed robberies. We are trying to connect them to these resources. We work with ACS, who goes out to the community after a homicide event to work with the neighbors and anyone else that wants input or wants to know better what happened, so we can try to heal these communities and heal these families as best we can after these incidents occur. I'd have to check, but it feels like a lot, so it's probably up there. But I'd have to better look back in time to get it. In terms of how many call-outs our detectives have had, because a homicide we say is like a non-negligent, purposeful kind of action. But our detectives respond to things that could be self-defense shootings, things that are just suspicious where we have to investigate. So it's definitely a really high amount of call-outs for the same group of detectives and crime scene teams that have to go out and process these. But we'd have to probably dig deeper in actual Excel spreadsheets to get you that number. Yep.
Commander, just to clarify, all the victims and the offender are all adults?
They're all adults, yes. That was the first question I asked this morning.
In this instance, it was a murder-suicide. We've seen a few of these in the past too this year. Do you want to talk about that extra level of tragedy, unfortunately?
Yeah, it's murder-suicides are actually pretty rare out here. In other cities, we visited Las Vegas Metro a few years ago. They were much more common, but they are on the rise out here. And again, that speaks to a mental health state or a substance abuse state while armed. Those are highly, highly emotionally charged events. Domestic violence is easily the most common one we see with murder-suicides. It's too early to tell what this one was right here. But, that's something the person had probably thought about well before it happened, which again goes to, should they have been in that situation right before it occurred? Were there signs of intervention that could have come in somewhere? Sometimes there just isn't. I wish there was. You can look at other mass shootings like in Las Vegas of the guy that shot down at the concert. I mean, he's a nobody until he is. Not comparing the two, but these things can be really hard to predict.
So this morning's scene wasn't contained to just one apartment, it moved outside, is that?
The shooting itself it happened kind of in the parking lot area, yes. One of the deceased subjects, one of the victims was on his way, was leaving, but then stopped and got out, and it continued the argument, is what it sounds like.
Was there any?
We believe just one gun was used. I'm sorry? I don't have that right now. Not for sure, anyway.
And I know you said there was a person in custody detained, but he was released. So there's no one in custody right now. It sounds like the shooter acted alone.
Sounds like the shooter acted alone, took his own life. Again, police show up. It's the middle of the night. People are running. We chase. It's like the dog and the mailman. But after some investigation, it turns out that he's not involved, just kind of made some bad choices as police were pulling up. He was released.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You got anything, Dodger? You want to add anything? No? You good?